Hey, I'm going to shoot a video to highlight some of the games that I played in 2020 that I felt were my favorites. I always try to keep track of how many games I beat, and I usually write them down on a list. I have the list over a little bit further away than what I can reach right now, but I think I beat 55 games in the year of 2020, and I don't want to talk about all 55 games, so I just narrowed it down to the games that I found to be my favorite. So in this video, I'm going to try to maybe make 3 videos so I don't just make it too long. But I'm not going to put them in any particular order. These are just the games that I really enjoyed that I played in 2020. Some of them were new, some of them were not new to me. We'll start off with the ones here in the front. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order was a game I played in the summer, and I was waiting for it to come down in price, but I enjoyed it overall. I thought that the gimmick of making it very similar to Dark Souls was a bit odd, but if you can get past the fact that you get to a point where you meditate, and then when you meditate, that brings back all the stormtroopers or like enemies that you just got done killing, you just forget about that. It's still an enjoyable experience. Everything's put together pretty well. I ran into some bugs, I think, when I first started playing it, just because I have an original Xbox One, and it's becoming pretty obvious that my system is not suited for some of these later stage games that have been created. They're kind of pushing the limits, but it's a game that I feel like I would probably replay at some point, just because I like single player story driven campaign games, and this is a third person Star Wars game that is definitely one of the better Star Wars games in recent memory that I can think of. It doesn't really impact the overall Star Wars narrative, or narratives, I should say, but it's good. I recommend it. I think it was a great experiment, and yeah, you should give it a try if you haven't played it. This one was one I remember buying really cheap at GameStop, just because I didn't want to forget about games that certain systems have, and then you just move on into the future. And I was kind of going into this blind where I didn't have a lot of knowledge of it, and I absolutely really enjoyed this game. It's sometimes it's good to play games that aren't overly complex, and that's how I would describe this. This is a story-driven third-person shooter that you could just tell they were just trying to create just a lot of lore with this game. It takes place like in like a different type of England that's not of historical accuracy, I should say. It tries to, if you're interested in like Victorian Europe, I think this is just a game that you would just really enjoy. I liked all the characters, and the main character is really cool. And it's just it's not overly long. I think that's what I liked about it too. But it definitely left it with like the thinking that they were going to try to make more, and who knows if they would. But even with it being like, I can't remember if it was a launch game, but it just really looked great for how old it is. And I was absolutely impressed with it. I thought it was a great game. I really am a fan of first person, individual campaign games rather than like mass multiplayer online type of stuff. So that's what I gravitate towards. And speaking of that, there's another one that is a single player campaign driven story. It's just awesome game. I played this back in. I feel like this was a bad timing game. I played this like right when the pandemic was beginning. And if you don't know anything about this game, it's supposed to take place during the outbreak of the plague. And it takes place in France. And so you see, if you're a history person, you would probably maybe appreciate this a little bit. There's some parts of it that doesn't take itself seriously because it's definitely like a mixture of like religion and like cult like religious type of thinking. The girl in the game is a really good character. She doesn't have any powerful moves that tries to break the stigma of like a strong, powerful woman in the later middle ages, which would be like okay, that probably wouldn't have happened, but it is believable. So some of the things that she can do are of a certain caliber that would be believable. I think she has this. I'm trying to think what's the. She has certain types of weapons that she will get that are within reason of what you would think that, okay, a girl that is like a late teenager would be capable of using. She's not using swords. She's not using. She's never really even using a bow and arrow. I'm losing my train of thought because my cat's over here trying to get my attention. But the whole system with like the rats and like lighting and everything like that is just spectacular. It is definitely a game. I'm glad I picked it up when I did, because it's going to probably become one of those games that just won't be easy to find. It reminded me when I was playing it. It reminded me a lot of like Uncharted. It's just that it's definitely like a Debbie Downer type of storyline, because people will die and everybody's dying from the plague. You walk around in towns and cities and it's not a good thing. And that's why I said it's not. I ended up playing Last of Us and Plague's Tale all within like a few weeks right at the start of the pandemic, and it was just like those kind of bad ideas. But another series that I played around the start of the pandemic that I didn't really even make connections to it being like virus and zombies and anything like that, but I didn't even really think of it like that. I just think of it as I love Resident Evil, and I was enjoying the fact that I got another Resident Evil back around, I think Resident Evil 3 came out in February or March, and I bought it brand new, and it's the only brand new game that I think I bought at the point of it being released, and I did that with Resident Evil 2. I love them, even if they're just remaking old properties. I love the fact that they're putting their time and effort into the series and they're not just like forgetting about it. I would love it if they made new games with this formula, but I was just a real big fan of Resident Evil 3. I thought it was a better game than people criticized it for, with it being short. I loved just the dynamic between Jill and Carlos. I think that's Jill. Yeah. I'm getting my characters mixed up because I played a bunch of Resident Evils. And it's just a fun experience. It's like when you go to watch a movie, you know you're going to watch a movie and it's going to be 2 hours, not going to be 18-hour movie. So I think people are overly critical about how long a game has to be. Like, if you're playing a game for 6 hours and in that 6 hours you're having an amazing time, yeah, it would be nice if that amazing time could continue, but it's like some of these games are designed to be replayed, and they're still enjoyable to replay. I replayed Resident Evil 2 this past year. I probably will replay it again this year just because I really like it. I like the original. I think I probably would still hold near and dear the original Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 and enjoy them for what they are. But I can't say enough about them, how I'm just so happy that Capcom made these things, and I mean, I know that they came down in price. It's actually kind of shocking that they came down in price around the holidays. Like Resident Evil 3 was $15. That would have been awesome to have waited to have got them at that price. But I appreciate being able to play them, being able to enjoy them, and enjoy them when they came out, when it was at its popularity. I like Resident Evil 3 so much that I got one of the. I'll say this. I got one of the Game Informer magazines. It's kind of hard to see because of the lights. And I framed it just because I really liked what Capcom did with this series. And if they do Resident Evil 4 and it ends up being on PlayStation 5 and not PlayStation 4, that's probably going to motivate me to get a PlayStation 5. The other games to mention that I played, these I played around Halloween. I think I played Resident Evil 0 around September, and then Resident Evil 1 around Halloween. That was like my Halloween game. So Resident Evil 0 is a game that I had played more than once. I think this year that would be probably like the third time I beat it. I enjoy it. I think people that ever attempt to try to criticize it, I disagree with their criticism. I think it's a great game. I think it's a great game for somebody that's never played a Resident Evil game to jump in. If you're like, I don't know about the tank controls or just the older Resident Evils, I think 0 is like the best game to just jump into. I don't think that jumping into Resident Evil 4 or Resident Evil 2 is the best place to start. I think 0 is probably the best because it's not that long, and I don't think the puzzles are all that challenging. I think it's a really awesome game. But Resident Evil 1 was the first time I ever sat down and I was like, I'm gonna play this and I'm gonna beat this. And there were always parts in the game where I got just frustrated and I never kept going. I probably restarted it multiple times in the last decade.